to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and after a 1-0 win in the second game of the first round playoffs, your Philadelphia Union are moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals to take on FC Cincinnati, and we finally got a date, which is November 25th at 8 p.m. at TQL Stadium, and it's about time that MLS gave us this date, and we know we have 17, 18 days off before these two teams play each other again. And if you guys listened to the last episode, I told you if the Union will wind up playing on a Sunday because they lost game 2 of the first round series against New England, then we wouldn't have a review episode of game 2. But because the Philadelphia Union won that game and we have so much time to kill before the Union take on FC Cincinnati, here we are, giving you guys my thoughts from the game and giving you guys the news. And maybe some of you guys have already forgot about what happened in last Wednesday's game because it's almost been a week since that game happened by the time you guys are listening to this podcast. So I do apologize for that. But I say it all the time. It always feels like the more I delay recording the podcast, we always get news to talk about. Yes, we have the Kaye Wagner news to talk about here, but all the MLS awards have now started to be announced, so definitely want to talk about that. But before we get into the news, man, I'm so excited to tell you guys about this. Year number 2, baby. Going to the 2024 United Soccer Coaches Convention this year in Anaheim. And just like last year, I got that discount code for you guys. It's the countdown to the pinnacle of soccer and learning. The 2024 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Anaheim isn't just an event, it's an experience. This year features some of the biggest names in soccer, including Leonard Griffin from Cal Men's Soccer, Carla Thompson of San Diego Wave FC, Randy Waldrum, head coach of Nigeria Women's National Team. Engage in immersive field sessions that cover contemporary topics from transitions, tactics, and modern play to the evolution of goalkeeping training. The business of soccer thrives within the exhibit halls, showcasing hundreds of international brands and the opportunity to network with industry leaders. Special offer, use promo code FREEKICK24 for a special price of $425. Prices will raise after December 13th. Book it now. See you guys out in Anaheim. And not only am I going out there, but I'm going to be joined by Kyle and Jillian Almany from the One Team We Agree On. And so it's going to be a blast having those guys out there at the convention with me. Like I said, maybe you guys are new, listening to the podcast, but I went out to the convention this year in January into Philadelphia. I was joined by Billy Myers, and we had a blast talking to people like JP Della Camera, Alexi Lawless, Tom Bogert, and I can't wait to see who Kyle and Jillian and myself are going to be talking to out in Anaheim. And this convention, I mean, to be invited again 2 years in a row, I mean, this is something that I don't take lightly. And I'm super excited to be going out to Anaheim and going to California for the very first time. So there will be more information announced leading up to the convention with more names to talk about, maybe some guests coming onto the podcast, a lead up to that event. So just because the MLS season's winding down does not mean the podcast is winding down. So just super grateful, like I said, to be invited yet again to the convention and to be able to go to California for the very first time and doing what I love, covering soccer. So it's going to be a lot of fun out there. Again, code FREEKICK24 to get that early access of $425 before the prices go up. But like I said, we have news to talk about, including all the MLS awards, Kaye Wagner stuff. We'll go ahead and talk about this New England game, go ahead and talk about the 3 stars, and go ahead and talk about blunder of the week. But before we do all that, let's get straight into the news. All right, so let's go ahead and start off and talk about that Kai Wagner news. MLS has issued a 3-match suspension to Philadelphia Union defender Kai Wagner for violating the league's one-field anti-discrimination policy during the Philadelphia Union vs. New England Revolution match on Saturday, October 28th. Wagner is also required to continue to participate in league-mandated education and training sessions, a process which has already begun, and must remain in full compliance with a program directed by a league-appointed restorative practices expert. In reaching this decision, MLS considered many factors, including Wagner's immediate acceptance of responsibility, willingness to participate in a restorative practices process to repair the harm caused, and his cooperation with the league's investigation. And so after this was announced, Kai Wagner came out with his statement late on Instagram saying, "The last few days have been very difficult for me and my family. I said something I deeply regret in the heat of the moment that was in response to defend the unacceptable comments regarding my family. I sincerely apologize for this and will work on bettering myself and my actions. This is not a representation of who I am." That's the comment that Kai Wagner has given on the statement. And we haven't heard anything else from Kai Wagner as he's suspended. Served game 1 of his suspension last Wednesday. If the Union progress against Cincinnati, then Kai Wagner would then miss the Eastern Conference Final, and then he would be eligible to play in the MLS Cup Final if the Union do in fact get that far. But if the Union do get knocked out, then the suspension will carry over to the next season until the suspension's over. Tom Bogut on Wednesday night, right before kickoff, said, "Sources around Philadelphia Union aren't happy with the fact that Kai Wagner is the only one suspended following the investigation into Wagner and Bobby Wood's argument. Philly believe Wood was the aggressor and believe Wood also violated MLS's anti-discrimination policy." And that lines up with what Kai Wagner said, that Bobby Wood made unacceptable comments regarding his family. And the first thing I want to make clear is it's disappointing. It's not right that Bobby Wood used a racial slur. It's really disappointing that a Philadelphia Union would sink that low. And I understand the fans that say, nope, they don't want anything to do with Kai Wagner, get him away from the team. But I do think it's a positive that Kai Wagner admitted it right away instead of beating around the bush and lying. And so I do wonder, are there Union fans out there that accept Kai Wagner's apology? Are there fans in MLS that accept Kai Wagner's apology, except that he admitted it right away? Yes, he used a racial slur, but he didn't lie about it. And I think because Kai Wagner was being fully cooperative with MLS, and that's why we only see a 3-game suspension compared to Adante Vanzier, who got a 6-game suspension, or Taxi Funtis, who used racial language for a second time, and DC United decided to cut ties with him. And so I just wonder, are there fans out there that accept MLS's punishment, knowing that Kai Wagner is working on bettering himself? Because I think, as humans, nobody's perfect. And this doesn't excuse Kai Wagner for using this language. But seeing that Kai is going through league-mandated training sessions, and that he was willing to do that. I do think that there is an opportunity for Kai Wagner and the fans and the team to repair the damage done by these comments. But like I said, I do get the fans out there that don't accept Kai Wagner, don't accept the apology, are disappointed in MLS for only suspending him for 3 games. I get the fans that are saying they don't want anybody that uses racial language on this team. I understand that. It's a very, very difficult situation. And like I said in my opening, it's really, really disappointing that a Philadelphia Union player found themselves in this situation, use this kind of language. And you hope Kai Wagner can learn from this, that he can grow from this. And so we'll see what happens. I do wonder, as this investigation was going on, Kai Wagner continued to train with the team. And so with that, it leads me to believe that, is it fair to say that his team's forgiven him? Because I feel like if his team didn't forgive him, then they wouldn't want him training with them. I think that's fair to say. But I don't believe any players have been asked about this situation. And this is all we have from the news. And this does, I think, shed more light on a situation that we probably won't get too many answers to, that, you know, Kai Wagner reacted the way he did because Bobby Wood was attacking his family. And so I don't know where you guys stand. Do you guys forgive him? Do you guys not want anything to do with him? Do you guys think that MLS completely botched this? We'll see what happens. No, does Kai Wagner come back next season? Does he play in MLS next season? It's definitely something to keep an eye on, but with Tom Bogert reporting that the Union aren't happy that Bobby Wood didn't get suspended, makes you think that, yeah, Bobby Wood must have said something really, really messed up to get under Kai Wagner's skin. And again, not excusing what Kai said, but you know, I think there's more to the story that we probably won't get. But Kai Wagner suspended for 3 games, already served one of those 3 matches this past Wednesday. And we'll see if anything else comes from this. We'll see if the players, if Kai Wagner himself speaks on the situation anymore. Let's go ahead and talk about some news around MLS. We'll start with some coaching hires and coaches getting fired. Hernan Losada is out in Montreal after 1 season. He finished with a 12-17-5 record. In his lone season, just missed out on making the playoffs this year with Montreal. And makes you wonder why Montreal wasted a year in hiring Losada just to go and fire him. It feels like it was a wasted year. But, you know, that's been an organization that's not been ran the best for a while now. And so I guess it should be to no surprise that Montreal fired Losada after a season. Speaking of parting ways with their manager, Charlotte FC have parted ways with manager Christian Lattanzio. Lattanzio reached the MLS playoffs this season in the play-in game with Charlotte. And his time in Charlotte is done. You make the playoffs, playing game, get absolutely blown out by Red Bulls, and you're done. A little bit surprised by this just because Christian was a coach in the City Footballing Group network and he was highly thought after. So I thought that he would get maybe one more year with Charlotte, but not so fast, the front office said, and they have moved on from Christian Lattanzio. Let's go ahead and talk about a manager that has found his way back into MLS, and that is Phil Neville is announced as the new manager of the Portland Timbers after getting fired this season from Inter Miami. Phil Neville is back in MLS, this time out in the Western Conference with the Timbers. Interesting hire. We'll see what he does. Will he be one and done like Losada was this season in Montreal? Time will tell. But let's go ahead and talk about some MLS end of the season awards. Thiago Almada is announced as the MLS Young Player of the Year. Romain Burki wins MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. Celentano has won Save of the Year with FC Cincinnati. Luciano Acosta wins Goal of the Year for a solo effort against Charlotte, which is a joke that Jose Martinez did not win Goal of the Year for his wonderful strike against Orlando City. Jose Martinez's first goal, by the way. And what a worldie it was. Matt Miazga, he wins Defender of the Year. We're still waiting on Executive of the Year. And we're also waiting on the Coach of the Year. So we'll see. Will Pat Noonan and Chris Albright win those awards? Will Luciano win MLS MVP for 2023? We shall see. The last bit of news I want to talk about are the 7 call-ups the Philadelphia Union have had for international call-ups. And those players are Andre Blake, Damian Lowe with Jamaica, Jose Martinez with Venezuela, Daniel Gazdag with Hungary, Ty Baribo with Israel, and Nate Harriel and Jack McGlynn have been called up for the U.S. U23 team. Now, if you guys want to pay attention to any of these matches, you have Jamaica playing Canada in the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinals on November 17th at 7 p.m. and then November 21st at 7:30 p.m. Jose Martinez will be playing Ecuador on November 16th and Peru on November 21st at 9 p.m. Daniel Gazdag will be playing against Bulgaria November 16th at 12 p.m. and Montenegro November 19th at 9 a.m. Ty Baribo will be playing a whole bunch of games with Israel, with Switzerland November 15th at 2:45 p.m., Romania November 18th at 2:45 p.m., and Andorra November 21st at 2:45 p.m. And then with the 2 homegrown players in Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel, they'll be playing against Iraq November 18th and Morocco November 21st in international friendlies. And this is awesome to see both Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel getting called into the U23 national team yet again. Both of them made their debuts in October. They both played in a full 90 minutes and a 2-1 victory over Mexico. And both players have had terrific seasons with the Union. Both players are getting rewarded yet again with their fine form. Both players played outstanding against New England. And what's interesting about Nate Harriel is this is a player that's played pretty much everywhere on the back line, right? We saw him play as left back, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. Primarily plays right back for the Union, but he can play as a center back if need be, if you're playing in a three center back system. And I'm already thinking about my end of the season Philadelphia Union podcast episode, whenever that will be. And I'm just thinking to myself that Jesus Bueno was, I thought, pretty much a guaranteed lock for most improved player. But I think Nate has a say in that as well. And now you look at him getting called up to the youth national team. Could this be a player going to the Olympics? A player that not many thought would potentially go. But because Nate's been playing so well here the last couple months for the Union, he's getting rewarded for that. And I think this is terrific for him. I think this is only going to help his career in the long run, especially if he does wind up going to the Olympics. I mean, that does wonders for a player's career. And there's been a couple times that I've said on the podcast that, yeah, Nate Herriel reminds me of just a long-term MLS player. But you go do well at the Olympics, you continue to get called up, you're eventually going to break into the full national team. And I don't know, all it takes is one team to make a call for Nate Herriel, and he could be off to Europe. So super, super stoked to see Nate getting just the attention for people that just aren't in the Philadelphia market. He's been terrific this season. And it's well-deserved. Well-deserved for him. Well-deserved for Jack McGlynn. Two players I didn't mention there were Quinn Sullivan and Brendan Craig. Neither one of those players got called up to the U23s, and it's tough when these guys have always been shoo-ins for call-ups with youth national teams, and neither one of those guys have got called up here for these friendlies, and you probably feel disappointed for them. Talented players, but I think it's also a good thing. Talks about the talent pool that the U.S. team currently has. And, you know, if you're not playing, if you're not in good form, you're not going to get called up. So we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be call-ups for both of those guys in the future, but for these two friendlies in November, not to be. Let's go ahead and talk about that New England Revolution versus Philadelphia Union game. As we know, the Union win that game by a score of 1-0. And the first thing where I want to start is the lineup. I think when you see the lineup with Kai Wagner being suspended, Jim Curtin opted for Nate Herriel as that left back instead of Matt Real or Leon Flock potentially playing there. Olivier Bizo gets a start at right back, and Julian Kranza also misses this game due to a hamstring injury. And so Jim Curtin opted for Quinn Sullivan up top instead of Chris Donovan or Joaquin Torres with Mikael Ua. And I thought, starting with Nate, and then we can get to Quinn, I thought Nate was excellent on the night. I really did. He did a good job dealing with the overlaps that New England threw his way with Andrew Farrell, dealing with Gustavo Bo and Carlos Hill when they would drift over to his side and combine well with Farrell. And I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone that that's the side that New England was going to be attacking. And I don't mean this as a knock to Jack McGlynn, but he is what he is defensively. And when you add a player that isn't a natural left back and a player that doesn't offer much defensive cover in the midfield, you expect there to be some sort of issues over on that side of the field. And Nate and Jack McGlynn did a really good job handling the pressure New England was throwing on that half in the first half. And it just continued in the second, especially with Marc-Anthony Kaye sent off right before halftime with that red card. But man, Nate Harriel did a terrific job. A really, really good job just holding his own. And offensively, we saw the Union, they had a chance in the first half with Nate Harriel off of a corner kick. His shot hits the post. And in the second half, with Marc-Anthony Kaye off, and believe me, we'll talk about that moment here in a bit, the Union continued to attack that left side of the field with Quinn Sullivan, with Nate Harriel, with Jack McGlynn. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt if the Union were going to score a goal, it was probably going to come on that left-hand side of the field. And speaking of Quinn Sullivan, I thought he was a menace on that side of the field for New England. They couldn't handle his speed, his dribbling. And you're always going to get Quinn Sullivan running hard at defenders, working hard defensively. But I think the thing that I like about Quinn Sullivan the most is, he's not afraid to take defenders on 1v1. And I think that's something that the Union have been lacking for a while, is they don't really seem to have a player that's comfortable doing that, going at you 1v1. And if you've been following this team for the last couple years, they really haven't had a player since Ilsinho, a player that's drawing the attention of 2-3 players, a player that you expect to get the best of his defender in a 1v1 situation. Yes, Miro, Brendan Aronson, Anthony Fontana, they've all shown moments of going at players 1v1, but they never offered you anything like Ilsinho did. And I've seen it so many times this season. Defenders back off of Quinn Sullivan. They keep backpedaling when they see Quinn Sullivan coming at them 1v1. This guy is coming at you full speed. He'll cut left. He'll cut right. He will get you off balance. And we saw that with a shot that missed just wide in the first half with Quinn Sullivan. This is a player that's super confident in his dribbling ability, in his playmaking ability. And it's never been a question of, is Quinn Sullivan talented? We all know he is. But how do you fit him into this team? He's not really a striker. He's not really an 8. He's not really a 10. He said it himself that in this diamond formation that he's most comfortable, he thinks his best position is playing as one of those outside 8s, which is fair because he's a winger and he likes playing out wide. And you get Quinn Sullivan in space, you get him going at players 1v1, that's when he's at his best. And so it sounds like Julian Kranza, with this long layoff, he'll be good to go against Cincinnati, and we'll hear more next week when Jim Curtin has his official press conference. But if the Union are down a goal, and hopefully they're not, or even if you want a player to go at tired legs and you want to go ahead and get more goals, or a player that's going to help you out defensively, then why not bring on Quinn Sullivan? He was excellent. I thought offensively in this game, the Union weren't great. Joaquin Torres and Chris Donovan, they were good on the night too, coming off the bench. And a lot of people might have been upset with Jim's decision to bring in Joaquin Torres. But I thought this was the perfect game to bring him in for. And I said to my sister when we're watching this game at the concert, the first half of the game, that is, I said, you know what? Jim Curtin's going to bring on Chris Donovan. He's going to score the game-winning goal, and it's going to come off of a set piece, because that's where the Union were really threatening New England all game long, is off a set piece, whether it be corners or free kicks. You bring Joaquin Torres on because every time New England were defending, they kept a really good shape. And this is what I talked about last episode. And I feel like I talk about that every time the Union played New England. They're really, really disciplined. They're going to make you earn your goals. This isn't the same New England in 2019 where the Union blew them out 6-1. I think we all know that. They're a team that's going to keep their shape. They're going to play a low block. They're not giving you many shooting opportunities inside the box from open play. And so you bring Joaquin Torres on to open up that space, to pull someone out of position. And now you have that space to attack. It didn't happen. And yes, the goal obviously came off of a set piece. But in this clip I'm about to play for you guys, and Jim Curtin said him and his coaches were discussing, when do we go for this? We're at our best when we're underdogs. And outside of the set pieces, you probably didn't feel like the Union were going to get a goal in this game. Other than maybe through Quinn Sullivan on the left-hand side of the field. Mikal Ua didn't do a lot. Didn't get many opportunities to score. While some of you guys I know are saying, well, that's the story of Mikal Ua all season long. It's crazy. Every single one of Mikel's shots on the night were blocked. Try to get himself in good positions, but New England were there to block the shot. Quinn Sullivan was the only one that looked like they would potentially get you a goal from open play. Obviously, it does not happen. But all these players I just mentioned, Joaquin Torres, Chris Donovan, Nate Harriel, Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan, they've all embraced this underdog mentality. They all stepped up. They all had to step up. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say about that.
When we're underdogs, I think we kind of are at our best. For a lot of reasons, obviously we're shorthanded tonight, injuries, suspensions, different things that happened during the week, a lot of outside things. And, for those guys to step up and play the way they did, Nathan, playing on the left side, really dangerous all night, aggressive going forward, defended really well. And we really held a talented New England attack to not much, in their building, which is good. Obviously, the red card helps. I'm not naive. I understand that. But Chris Donovan comes in and gives us some good minutes. Joaquin, again, I talk about now a guy that is a true professional. Look, his talent, and I talk to him all the time about it, is undeniable. He can play anywhere. For a lot of reasons, his decisions have gone against him this year. But he's an example of a guy who has trained good in the last couple of weeks and got an opportunity and really helped us. So it's a team effort. It's a good win. Again, you never want to leave things to chance and let it go to a third game. So I say it all the time to the group. The hardest thing to do in pro sports is end another team season. It really, really is hard. And New England threw everything at us. We took their best punch on the road and we move on.
Yeah, that's another thing too that I don't think I was really going to talk about a lot. And Jim brings it up is the Union defensively. They were really good on the night. Yes, they had 19 shots, only 4 on target against New England. Like we said, New England did a really good job playing a low block, keeping their shape, forcing the Union to shoot a lot of shots outside the 18-yard box. But the Union, offensively, didn't really give up any shots. Mark-Anthony Kaye misses a header off of a corner. Bo probably had the best shot on the night in the 48th minute. Andre Blake makes a save. Farrell has a shot in the 74th minute. Andre Blake makes a heck of a save there. But other than that, the Union kept New England quiet. And last time I'm talking about the Union giving Carlos Gil way too much time and space in the midfield. And they do a great job shutting him out. They completely took Carlos Gil out of the game. Phenomenal job by the Union. A complete opposite performance from the last time the Union were in New England on decision day. And when the Union had injuries and suspensions, players stepped up. And this team embraces the underdog mentality. And they've got to go to Cincinnati. And if they win that, then they're on the road again for the Eastern Conference Finals, either in Orlando or in Columbus. And then if you get to the final, you'll be at Subaru Park, regardless of what happens in the West, because the Union are seated higher than anybody in the West due to Supporter Shield standings. And so the Union are going to have to continue to be the underdog the rest of the playoff series on the road. And I know that's one thing that's a huge concern to a lot of you guys that are listening to the podcast. I see a lot of people complaining on social media about how the Union have played on the road this season. And I don't know where this, the Union aren't good on the road mentality has come from. They won 5 games on the road this season. It's the third most in the Eastern Conference, with Orlando City with 9, 7 for Cincinnati. Union 5, 8, and 4. Yes, it's not the 7, 5, and 5 that the Union went last season on the road, but they've proven they can win on the road. They've proven that they can score on the road. They're going to grind on the road. And so for people that are panicking, acting like it's the end of the world that the Union have to play on the road, it's not. It's not. The Union just went to New England without Kai Wagner, Jacob Glesnes, and Julian Carranza, and came away with a clean sheet. A clean sheet. And let me remind you guys that Jim Curtin always preaches how it starts with the defense and how they always want to keep a shutout. And that 1-0 victory over New England was the Union's first shutout on the road since July 12th at Nashville. And what a time to get a shutout on the road, right? Maybe this is the momentum starter that the Union need. They're going to have to be perfect here, we know, on the road against Cincinnati and Orlando. But with their backs up against the wall, with players suspended and injured, they show out in New England. So how confident are you guys? Are you guys confident that the Union can get it done 2 more times on the road? Big performance from players that don't get a lot of praise. Great night for those guys. But I told you guys, I want to talk about the Mark Anthony Kaye red card. And yes, this opened up chances for the Union. But I do think, actually, New England was probably, I think this is fair to say, was probably the better team for the most part in the second half. But obviously, the thing missing was the goal. The Union did a good job keeping their shape, defending well, and they picked their moments when to attack. They kept the pressure on with set pieces, and they finally get rewarded with it. Beautiful ball in by Jack McGlynn. Chris Donovan there to react and put the ball in the back of the net. And he gets his first playoff goal. A player that's grown so much this season. A player who is out of contract after this year. You hope that he's back with the Union next year. I don't see why he wouldn't. He's not going to be expensive. But we can worry about that when decisions are to be made. But that Marc-Anthony Kaye red card was so stupid. There's no need for him to, one, make the challenge on Daniel Gazdag when he made it. Especially where he made it to on the field. I mean, red cards definitely deserved. But there were so many fouls from Marc-Anthony Kaye in this game. I think there was like 3 or 4 that weren't given as yellow cards. It's like, how many more times is this guy going to get away with making these fouls? And then, of course, his last foul, red card, because he steps right on the chest of Daniel Gazdag. And shout out to Jose Nunez for getting this soundbite from the New England pregame press conference. Matt Polster, the midfielder for New England, number 8. Have you guys heard his comments? He talked pre-game about targeting the Union's players.
Yeah, I think, no, we do need to protect him as a team and as an organization. He's our most important piece within the team. You know, he makes us go as a group. So we need to make sure the referees are aware, and I think the league should do that as well. It's not been the first instance where he's been targeted on the field and taken out of games because of that. So a few of us ran up to the referee after he did get hit. I don't think that influenced him at all. I think, you know, we need to be more aware and maybe even be a little more forceful on our side as players to maybe do something similar on the same. You know, we need to start targeting their players to an extent, obviously not to hurt like what happened to Carles, but, you know, protect him and make sure that it's not okay just to keep hitting our players.
I mean, how unaware do you have to be to use the word targeting their players? Targeting. I mean, if this is said in the NFL, you're getting a massive fine and you're probably getting suspended. I mean, isn't that what happened a few years ago down in New Orleans with Bountygate? Didn't their coach or players say that they were going to put bounties on people's heads, target them? And a whole bunch of fines and suspensions happened down there? I feel like that happened. I feel like that was a thing. I'm not huge into the NFL, but I'm pretty sure I recall that happening. Let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of line, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I mean, I could have looked it up by the time I'm stalling, but I'm not. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong. But that is wild to say, yeah, we're going to target their players, but not hurt them like they hurt Carles Heel. The whole point of targeting players is to hurt them. The Union did not go out here targeting Carles Heel. Yes, the Union want to play hard-nosed soccer, but they're not going out here specifically saying, we're going to go out here and injure players. No, that's not what's happening. But you have Matt Polster coming out here saying, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. And then you see Marc-Anthony Kaye with a red card because he steps on Daniel Gazdag? Dude, you legit said we are going to target their players. And you see what happened with Marc-Anthony Kaye. That looks pretty intentional. So I'll be curious to see, are fines going to come out? Are there going to be suspensions that go on towards next year? Or is MLS going to ignore this? I mean, that is wild. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say after the game in regard to those comments.
I'll go back to it. Maybe I'm like this old guy that is from a different time, but I can remember, the days of the Showery Josephs, the Taylor Twellmans, the Clint Dempseys, the Steve Ralstons, the Pat Noonans. When you'd come here, those guys did their talking on the field. They really did. And they didn't talk much other than that. And they were great players. For whatever reason now, and I say this for all the young kids out there, do your talking on the field, because that's where the games are really won and lost. Talking before the game or after, it's all noise and nonsense. So I just feel like, again, stay humble. You shouldn't have guys talking about us, about who's going to kick who, and then they're guys that don't really even impact the game or even play in some instances. So this is the way it is now. Everybody thinks that, and it's not just New England. You read the headlines of even the Red Bull guy talking about Cincinnati, and you're going, gosh, these guys aren't even guys that impact games. So, it's changed. Maybe that's the younger generation. I love my group because I think they do their, they do their things on the field. So again, it's part of it. It happens, and here we are.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what Jim Curtin said during the Leagues Cup when he told the Red Bulls to sit down and be humble. It's kind of the same message I'm getting from Jim here, and it's crazy. Jim Curtin says, it's players that don't even make an impact in the game that do the loudest talking. I mean, Matt Polster is a fine player, a decent squad piece, I think, for many teams in MLS. Is he going to be a game changer? No, but it's so funny. The players that do the most talking are the players that have the littlest impact on games. It's true. It really is true. It's a good MLS player, but definitely does not make a huge impact. And the fact that, like, what are you doing? Credit to New England, by the way. I mean, it's sad that I have to say this, but for people that, and I know following press conferences in MLS is extremely difficult, but there have been many cases over the years of MLS teams cutting out what players or coaches have said in the past during their press conferences because they don't want it out there in the public. Looking at you, New York City. Credit to New England. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like there has to be some credit to New England for not scrapping that comment by Matt Polster. Credit to them, because it does happen in MLS. Teams do get rid of comments from players and coaches that they know aren't going to do those people any good. Obviously, this comment isn't going to do Matt Polster any good. And it didn't. And like I said, with Matt saying that, the red card by Mark Anthony Kaye, it does look intentional because of those comments. Man, how unself-aware do you have to be? A joke. An absolute joke. But let's go ahead and close this episode out with 3 stars because we already did Blunder of the Week. And so we'll start with 3-1. Jack McGlynn, 1 assist, 5 chances created, 18 passes into the final third, 5 ball recoveries. Excellent night by Jack McGlynn. Somebody had to step up with no Kai Wagner, a player that creates the most chances on this Union team. Jack McGlynn with 5 chances created on the night. And if the Union are going to go far, he's got to have more games like that. He's always got to be looking to play the ball forward. And yes, that was a killer 1-2 punch having Kai Wagner and Jack McGlynn on the field at the same time. But we know that's not going to happen until potentially MLS Cup. And so more of that from Jack McGlynn. And like I said earlier, He did well defensively. He helped out defensively with Nate Harriel. Of course, New England were going to attack that side of the field. And he did well to hold his own. Number 2 in the night. A great player. An outstanding player. Damian Lowe. This guy is definitely and will be the most important signing for the Union this year. The biggest acquisition. Huge game from him. 1 out of 1 tackles won, 4 clearances, 3 interceptions, 5 ball recoveries, 4 out of 6 ground duels won, 2 out of 2 aerials won. Look, another player, an underdog, player that's stepping up, a player that has seen plenty of action this year, maybe not as many starts as he would have wanted, but he has played a significant amount. And now he's going to have to play a significant role going forward in the playoffs. And what a big night by Damian Lowe. Fantastic player. I mean, you would have thought that Damian Lowe is one of the worst players in MLS if you listen to what Miami fans had to say about him last year. But who would have thought? You get him in a team that's great. You surround him by other good players. It's going to bring out good qualities in Damian Lowe. Wow. Who would have thought that would be possible? And great player Damian Lowe is. Great play on the night. And I hope that I'm not jinxing his performances going forward in the playoffs, but going to need more of that from Damian. And number 1, Nate Harriel. 1 out of 1 tackles won, 8 clearances, 8 ball recoveries, 2 out of 3 aerials won. I don't know, guys. I think I'm convincing myself that he's been the most improved Union player this season. He's been great. I'm so happy that Nate's getting rewarded with his performances with the national team. And yes, of course, you don't want players to leave the Union. You have your favorite players, and you want people to be lifers at the Union if that's possible. But you also want players to go and test themselves in Europe. You want them to go ahead and get these kind of opportunities to prove themselves in Europe. And that's what I want for Nate Harriel. And if he does continue to play like this, I said it at the beginning, he'll continue to get called up to the national team, youth team. He'll then eventually get called up to the full national team. And then the sky's the limit. I mean, if he goes out and has a great Olympics, he's gone. I'll say that now. He's gone. Of course, he has to make the team, but he's getting these call-ups right now. And if that continues to happen, you would imagine he'll be a lock for that Olympic team. What a player Nate Harriel is, playing out of position as a left back. I mean, what else do I need to say? What else do I need to say? But that's pretty much it for this episode. We'll see what we do the rest of this week, podcast-wise, because I know I've been slacking. You guys are used to getting 2 podcasts a week from me. Now they're down to 1. Maybe not even a podcast a week at times. Definitely have to give you guys a podcast next week. We'll figure out what we do. Maybe we get Jose Nunez on the podcast. Sure, he'd be down. Maybe we get Tom Gallagher from Cincinnati. Maybe we do a Twitter Spaces episode. I don't know. You guys let me know what you want, and we'll try to get something worked out. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcasts, at Free Kick. Be sure to like, review, and subscribe. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod, which that's on me for not getting the 1080p clips when I had the opportunity to make the goals breakdown video. And I didn't want to put up 720 quality on YouTube, so that's why there's no goals breakdown video. That's on me. I apologize. But still, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. And yeah, come out to Anaheim. Come out to Anaheim in January. That's something I didn't tell you guys either. January 10th through 14th is the convention date. Come out there. You guys will have a blast. I had a blast this past January in Philadelphia. It's going to be even better, I feel like, in California. So come out. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.